In Matthew, it just says, disciples went and did as Jesus commanded them. In Mark, it says they went their way and found the colt. So I could put disciples went their way. Luke, and they that were sent went their way. And the disciples that were... I could do that, okay. And the disciples that were sent went their way. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And the disciples, now from Luke, that were sent, went is in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Their way is in both Luke and Mark. Mark says, and found the colt tied by the door. Matthew just skips the interaction with the questioner. So it's just between Mark and Luke. Luke says, found even as he had said to them. I'm going to have to put that first. And found even as he had said to them, Mark, the colt tied by the door, outside in a place where two ways met. And they loose him. And as they were loosing him, from Luke. Okay, I'm going to leave it as Matthew. And did as Jesus commanded them. And found even as he had said to them. Now I'm going to go back to Mark. The colt tied by the door outside in a place where two ways met. So Mark says they loosed him, and certain of them that stood there said to them, what do you do loosing the colt? But Luke says, as they were loosing the colt, the owners thereof said to them, why loose you the colt? I think I might just have to choose between the two. Either they loose him fully, and then they're questioned, or it's as Luke says, as they were loosing the colt, the owners thereof said to them. I'm just going to pick Luke. They were where the two ways met, and as they were loosing the colt. That's what I'll do. And certain of them that stood there said to them. In Mark it just says certain of them. In Luke it says the owners. That's more descriptive. The owners thereof that stood there said to them. Okay, so I have to put in that stood there because that's not in Luke. So the owners thereof that stood there and then said to them is both. In Mark they ask, what do you loosen the colt? However, in Luke they only ask, why loose you the colt? So I can put both. What do you, skip over to Luke, why loose you the colt? The colt from Mark and Luke. This is going to be a little bit confusing to those who haven't done the research that I just did. They're loosing the colt and the donkey. But perhaps they loosed the colt first, then they were questioned about it. They gave their answers, and then they continued loosing the donkey and then left with both, the colt and the donkey, the mother ass. I'm going to leave it as it is because I'm not going to reinterpret scripture. I'm just going back and forth because of the timing, and I'm going to include the whole story, so I'm not changing anything. Matthew, verse 7, and brought the ass and the colt. So I'm going to have it just as it says in Luke, why loose you the colt? And then after the question, I'm going to go back to Matthew to make sure it shows they brought both. So in Luke, it goes on, and they said, the Lord has need of him. And they brought him to Jesus. So that's just it. And they said, the Lord has need of him. In Mark, and they said to them, even as Jesus had commanded, and they let them go, and they brought the colt to Jesus. It's more inclusive in Mark, but I'm going to have both. I'll go with Mark. And they said to them, even as Jesus had commanded, the Lord has need of him. Back to Mark, and they let them go. So starting with Mark, jumping to Luke, going back to Mark. And I said to them, even as Jesus had commanded, Luke, the Lord has need of him. And then back to Mark, and they let them go.